Okay, we're back. Our live draft coverage. Dan Labbe and Chris Fedor here with you. Of course, thanks for watching and thanks for commenting, all that good stuff as we go along here tonight, second and third rounds of the NFL draft. Let's get back to that Steelers pick, Sinquez Golson.
Really good pick for Pittsburgh. A guy that makes a lot of sense, 5'9", 176 pounds, undersized guy, but you're talking about a first-team All-American, first-team All-SEC, tied the school record for interceptions with 10. He was a baseball player. He had a chance to play for the Boston Red Sox, chose against it, decided to play football instead. So you have somebody who makes up for a lack of size with other ability, with some speed, with some quick twitch, and somebody who has got obviously tremendous ball skills if he's going to have that many interceptions, Dan. So you would like him to be 6'1", 6'2", but he's not. He's 5'9", and he still finds a way to be extremely productive.
Comment on Baltimore. Steelers kind of do this too. Baltimore just makes the picks that make the most sense. They're not tricky. They just don't get cute. I mean, I feel like that's what the Browns are trying to do this year. They're trying to make picks that make sense. They're trying not to be cute.
And they have. To their credit, they absolutely have. You understand why they took Danny Shelton, because they were dead last in terms of stopping the run. You understand why they take Cameron Irving, because he can play guard, he can play center, he can play some tackle for you. Alex Mack's contract situation is something that is still looming over this franchise. That one makes sense. And look, Nate Orchard, a pass rusher, that also makes sense, given the fact that you don't have that potential for a double-digit sack guy, given the fact that the Browns lost Jabal Sheard. They do make sense. There's no question about it. But I'm wondering if they've maximized the spot that they've been drafting in. And I think that's a completely different scenario. That's a completely different conversation. I think when people look back on this year's draft, they're going to say solid. I don't know that you can say more than that, though, because the issues that existed last year, the biggest issues that existed last year, only one of those has been fixed, and that's the run defense.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to be better in the win column out of this draft. I mean, I thought based on the schedule alone, they'd be worse anyway. I don't know if they'll be much better in the win column. All right, let's hear from one of those first-day picks. He was introduced in Berea today, and his name, of course, Cameron Irving.
Getting drafted by Cleveland was definitely something that I'm definitely never gonna forget. So, I mean, it was a lot of nerves, but it was good nerves. You know, more anxious, ready to see where I was going, ready to see where I was gonna start my career. You know, we try not to pay attention to those mock drafts, but I mean, a lot of people already knew Cleveland had their eyes on Danny. And when the first time I met him, I said, man, Cleveland, they gonna get you. I said, I think they like me a lot. He said, man, we might be teammates. Lo and behold, it happens on draft night. So it's crazy. But, I mean, from my end, I know it was a little bit – I had a little bit of inkling that Cleveland was going to pick me.
2 or 3 years down the road, where would you like to be? What position?
I'm an offensive lineman. I mean, you know, a lot of people say that's the politically correct answer. But, I mean, that's just my honest answer. I couldn't give you any other answer. I mean, it's just, you know, I'll do anything the team needs me to do. I attribute a lot of that success to my position coach, Coach Trickett. You know, he educated us. He taught us a lot about football, not just one position. He wanted us to be offensive linemen. That's why I tell you what I tell you today. He definitely, you know, when he coaches other guys and when he coached other guys, I always try to listen to the little key points and the coaching points that he would give the guards and the centers and the right tackles, even though I was playing left tackle at the time, you know. And I feel like that's what really helped me make the move to center so seamlessly.
Well, we were saying earlier you don't pay attention to mock drafts. Did you take it as a slap in the face that you were like they were a 2 or 3 star guy coming out of high school, or does that motivate you at all? Or
Nah, words from a wise man, man. It ain't where you start, it's where you finish. I definitely feel like I can come in and play like a Brown, you know. I love the history here. I mean, in a short amount of time, I've realized that, I mean, we have some of the best fans in the country. Cleveland, you know, Dog Pound, it's crazy. I've seen it on TV, but I've never really paid attention to it as much as I'm about to pay attention to it now.
Cameron Irving, the Browns' second first-round pick yesterday. That video, of course, shot by David Anderson in Berea earlier today. The Denver Broncos just took Ty Sambrailo, and now we get to an interesting situation.
Oh, do we?
Are the Cowboys the team that grabs Randy Gregory?
Well, just think about their history. Considered Johnny Manziel last year, right? They went out this offseason, they bring in Greg Hardy. Everybody knows what's going to happen with that. He's not going to be there for the first 10 games, but it shows a willingness to go do that. I honestly think Dallas probably considered Gregory at number 27 before going with a cornerback in Byron Jones because they felt like secondary was a bigger issue. I do think they'll consider him here, absolutely.
All right, now the Buccaneers have moved up to number 61. That's a pick that they get from the Colts. So they have moved into the second round again, trading with Indianapolis. So the order now to wrap up the second round: Dallas, Tampa, Green Bay, Seattle, and then New England. We are awaiting Dallas's selection here. There it is. Randy Gregory goes to the Dallas Cowboys.
He's an incredible football player. He's one of the 10 best players in this year's draft. And yes, there are a ton of other issues. Has a hard time with his weight, broke his leg as a junior college player. And of course, there's the whole off the field stuff with the marijuana. There's no getting around those things. But he's fast, he's athletic, he can bend off the edge, he can fly off the edge, and he can help you in terms of stopping the run. Dan, you and I talked about this last night here on cleveland.com. If you want to know whether Randy Gregory is just a pass rusher, turn on the Wisconsin game and watch him play against the big, beefy offensive linemen of Wisconsin and, of course, Melvin Gordon. He can stop the run, too.
And Randy Gregory, of course, it was a long wait in Chicago, 60 picks. 2 days he had to sit there in Chicago, and certainly, like, you never know. Maybe this is what he needs. Maybe this is something that's going to serve as that wake-up call. Get yourself together, make better decisions, and the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones take a chance on Randy Gregory. Again, a good football team, a team that could have been in the Super Bowl last year. Maybe they can afford to take that risk.
And think about it from Dallas's standpoint. You're sitting here at number 60, and this is a guy that you considered in the first round. I don't think there was any chance that Jerry Jones, when he passed on Randy Gregory yesterday at number 27, was thinking to himself, I can still get this guy at number 60, especially with all the teams that drafted in front of them that have a need for a pass rusher. The Jets at number 37, the Redskins at number 38, New Orleans at number 44, who went with a different pass rusher. The Browns took a pass rusher. There are a lot of teams drafting in front of the Cowboys that went this position, but went with a different guy. And I know Dante Fowler was the 3rd overall pick, and he was the 2nd best defensive player, but he's not a pure pass rusher. He's just a complete football player. He's a defensive-minded guy, and he finds a way to be productive in terms of stopping the run and at times getting after the quarterback. But if you're talking about pure pass rushers, Dan, just unleash the guy, let him go off the edge. There is nobody better in this year's class than this kid that just went number 60.
Okay, so now we're back to Tampa. Quarterback, offensive lineman. Those were their 2 picks. An interesting situation for them because they seem to have offensive weapons to offer Jameis Winston already. Their offensive line could still use work. Their defense could still use work. What's Tampa doing?
Well, I think they still have to go offense here. That's just my opinion. Are they going to? I don't know. But an offensive lineman, one offensive lineman here in the second round, a talented guy in Donovan Smith, who made a bunch of starts at left tackle, probably going to kick inside to guard. That's not going to fix all the issues there in Tampa Bay along that offensive line. You got to protect Jameis. That's the number 1 goal now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is make Jameis Winston comfortable. And I think another offensive lineman would be the way to go here.
Yeah, it's interesting. So who is it?
Well, the problem is you've got a lot of guys who have already come off the board. You know, Fisher came off the board. Smith was taken by the Buccaneers, but there's one remaining. I continue to go back to him here, Dan. TJ Clemmings, the offensive tackle from Pitt, started his career as a defensive player. He's got 2 years as an offensive tackle. This allows him to go to a situation where they can develop him, they can teach him the position. you have the tools here to be something in the future. And getting him here at number 61, you could potentially get your left tackle of the future given the skill set that he has.
If they decide to not go offensive line, where are they going?
If they don't go offensive line, they might go defense, and that could be a defensive lineman or it could be an outside linebacker. If they're looking for defensive line help, of course, they still have Gerald McCoy, who's one of the best interior defensive linemen. But that whole Michael Johnson thing in free agency blew up in their face.
Yeah.
So you could take a defensive end here. Of course, Preston Smith is already off the board, unfortunately. He, I think, would have been an ideal fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they could still go with a different defensive end.
All right, the Buccaneers, then the Packers, the Seahawks, and the Patriots. That will wrap up the second round, and then we will move on to round 3, where the Browns also have a pick. Tomorrow, the Browns have lots more picks. We're not going to have a live show during rounds 4 through 7, but there's going to be plenty of coverage of it at cleveland.com/Browns. Of course, Mary Kay already has a whole bunch of stories up, including what Devontae Parker's mom said about the Cleveland Browns. We read that on the air here earlier, but if you missed it, check that story out. And, of course, stories on Nate Orchard, the Browns front office folks, or at least Ray Farmer and Mike Pettin, should be available at some point tonight as well. So we'll have complete coverage of the NFL draft on cleveland.com/Browns well into the night. So if you're so excited about Nate Orchard that you can't sleep tonight, make sure you check all that out, because we'll have some folks in Berea working late. Dave Anderson will probably have videos. I don't know. We'll have all sorts of stuff up there for you to check out, and stuff from yesterday as well. Go ahead and take a look at that. The Buccaneers, we await their pick. It is in. It will be announced shortly. Green Bay, Seattle, and New England. It's always interesting when teams like this pick. What are they thinking?
Well, Green Bay, I think, made a huge blunder last night. If I'm ranking the teams that I disagreed with the most last night, Green Bay was right there along with the Carolina Panthers. They take Demarius Randall, a safety. They took a safety last year in Clinton Dix. So unless they think Randall can play cornerback, and I've got my doubts on that, I don't agree with that pick at all for the Green Bay Packers. But if you're looking at another area, they still, I think, need a cornerback. And they could take an inside linebacker, because they were forced last year, out of necessity, Dan, to put Clay Matthews on the interior of their defense. If they take an inside linebacker, then what they can do is they can shift Clay back to the outside and just have him get after the quarterback.
A source tells Mary Kay, this Devontae Parker's mom story. Come on, it's great. A source tells Mary Kay Cabot the Browns had no idea that Devontae Parker's mom didn't want him to play in Cleveland when they passed on him. I feel like if they would have picked him, we probably wouldn't have that quote from Devontae Parker's mom.
No, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, because your son's going to go to Cleveland. He's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wouldn't do anything to screw that up. And come on, it's Miami-Cleveland. There's a history between the two, right?
True.
With the LeBron
That's
thing.
true.
Just placate to the fans.
Most surprising pick so far.
What's wrong with parents nowadays? If you remember, Landon Collins' mom was like, I don't want my son to go to Alabama. Remember that? He was going to go to LSU. She wanted him to go to LSU. He goes to Alabama. She's all angry with him. And now you've got Devontae Parker's mom jumping in here. What has surprised me so far?
Is it Indianapolis?
The fact that they haven't gotten him any protection, and him is Andrew Luck. Yeah, that's certainly something that jumps off the page. I'm also surprised, honestly, that Randy Gregory went all the way to number 60, given the teams that took outside linebackers in front of him. I also think the 49ers taking Tart at number 46, that was a bit of a surprise. And Carolina going with wide receiver after taking a linebacker, they still didn't get that offensive tackle for Cam Newton, or that offensive lineman for Cam Newton.
All right. It hasn't been, though, a draft just full of surprises.
No, it really hasn't. You're right. I think the first round went pretty much according to plan.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Maybe the fact that Tennessee didn't move out of number 2 was a mild surprise.
Right.
I don't know, though.
The most surprising thing, I think, of the first round was Shaq Thompson going to Carolina at number 25 when so many people pegged an offensive lineman there. Aside from that, when you're talking about the first round, there wasn't a ton. People will raise their eyebrows about Todd Gurley going number 10 overall, but he was one of the 5 best players in this year's draft, in my opinion. You had the Chargers trade up for Melvin Gordon 2 spots. I don't think that was a huge surprise either. So aside from the Carolina Panthers, the Green Bay Packers, and the Colts passing on an offensive lineman, not too much.
Belichick, he's ready for the next season in our comments. He says he loves 6-3 games.
Does he?
Get ready for him.
Okay, he's one of the few.
Because that's how the Browns are going to have to win 14-13, 6-3. What was that game in Buffalo a few years ago?
The snow one?
No, it wasn't the snow one. I remember the snow one when they won 8-0. That was when they won 10 games. But no, it was a Mangini game. They went to Buffalo. It was ugly.
Really? I don't remember that one at all. I remember the ugly Seattle game. Remember 6-3?
Yeah.
And Seattle almost won because they should have had a punt return for a touchdown or something like that, and there was a block in the back called that wasn't even anything that happened in that play.
Ugly games in the Mangini era.
Yeah, there were.
Yeah.
This is a Mangini draft, by the way. I mean, if you
Very
think about
much,
it, this
yeah.
is exactly
Very
what he
much
would do.
an Eric Mangini style draft. They're filling needs though. Hopefully these picks will work out for them. The biggest wild card though of the 3 picks obviously has to be the lowest one, Nate Orchard.
I would say yes. And I think it all depends, Dan, on the role that they put him in first. If they're going to ask him to play every single down, they're going to be disappointed. But if they bring him in as a situational pass rusher, which is pretty much what he is, then I think the Browns are going to be okay with that because the guy had 18.5 sacks. He tormented Stanford and Andrus Peat. He got Brett Hundley 4 times in the game against UCLA. 4 of his 18.5 came against the athletic and physical Brett Hundley. So this is a guy that has played against some pretty good competition, and he had a big 2014, got invited to the Senior Bowl, played well in the Senior Bowl, and he's somebody that obviously caught the eye of Ray Farmer and Mike Pettin. And here's the other thing. When you've got a guy like Mike Pettin, you would think that he would have the ability to maximize anybody on his defense, given his background with the Jets and with the Ravens.
All right, so the Buccaneers did go offensive line. Ali Marpet.
Oh, he is terrific. I love this guy. Right. Absolutely Division III guy. He started 37 of 43 games. Hobart, Dan.
Yes.
Hobart in the Liberty League. This guy.
Officially Hobart and William Smith.
Here's how good he is. He was the co-offensive player of the year. Think about that. He's an interior lineman, and he was the co-offensive player of the year. Now, that might tell you a little bit about the Liberty League, but he did not allow a single sack. He's somebody who doesn't have these great measurables. He doesn't have these great tools, but my man finds a way to get the job done. I think Jameis Winston is going to feel very comfortable behind him.
The Packers go cornerback Quentin Rollins, Miami of Ohio. Talked about him.
Yes, basketball player. Played basketball for 4 years at Miami of Ohio, decides, you know what, I've got 1 year left. Let's play some football. I played some football in high school. Turns into the MAC Defensive Player of the Year. Probably cornerback, maybe even safety. We're talking about the versatility here. That's what it's about with a lot of these teams. Find guys who can do a variety of different things. And Quentin Rollins was a guy that I had pegged actually late here in the second round. He's somebody that you think, given what he accomplished in his 1 year after 4 years off of football, after what he accomplished in that 1 year for Miami of Ohio, you would think once he gets some NFL coaching, you might have something here. You might have a very productive player moving forward in the secondary.
Oh, Randy Gregory.
What do you do now?
Quote, me and the Dallas Cowboys, we're going to take over this league.
Again, what do you want these guys to say?
At least he didn't text it to his position coach.
Look, see, here's the problem.
I don't have a problem with him saying it. It's just the whole Johnny Manziel, let's wreck this league is still so fresh.
I know. But you seem to, not you, but a lot of people find these certain guys who slide in the draft, and you ask them about that, and then all of a sudden they're honest about things. Gregory, Dorial Green Beckham, and people are going to roll their eyes. They did this last year with Derek Carr. Remember? Derek Carr said, I'm the best quarterback in this year's draft. And people were like, oh my goodness, what a dope. Who does he think he is? Has he not heard of Blake Bortles? Has he not heard of Johnny Manziel, Teddy Bridgewater? These guys are competitive. I want Randy Gregory and Dorial Green Beckham to say things like this. Now, I want them to back it up on the field.
Yeah.
But what do you want these guys to say? Nah, you know what? That Eli Harold, he's a better player than I am. He's not going to say that. You know, Kakaha, that guy really caught my eyes. He's a better player than me. No chance he's going to say that, and I wouldn't expect him to.
Frank Clark goes to the Seahawks, and you know what? That goes all the way to the top of this draft. Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. Jameis Winston came right out in his press conference at the Combine, and he said, I want to be the best. I'm going to throw. I'm going to throw because I want to show everybody I'm the best. And then I was reading some articles on him right before the draft, and there was a workout where Mariota and Jameis were both there, and everybody was real buddy-buddy, except those guys didn't talk to each other a whole lot, is what the reporter said. They kind of paced around like a couple of alpha males. So there's competitiveness all over the draft. That's what football's about.
That's absolutely right.
So, yeah, it's good to see. Frank Clark goes to the Seahawks, the defensive end out of Michigan.
Local kid. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice place for him, too. He goes to Seattle. He can get great coaching from Pete Carroll. He can sit behind some of these other defensive linemen that the Seahawks have, and he's going to have a chance to make a small impact, I would think, in year one, just as a situational guy. And that's probably what he needs right now because he's certainly not a finished product.
Yeah, and Seattle's in this weird situation where they do need to start finding guys that in a couple of years can start to step in and make plays for them because these players that have built this great defense aren't going to be cheap forever.
Well, if you think about it, they're already, according to reports, ready to move on from Bruce Irvin.
Yeah.
That's one guy. Michael Bennett's certainly not going to be there forever. And now you've got a guy in Frank Clark who was second on the team in tackles for loss and second on the team in sacks. Now, Michigan didn't have a great defense. Everybody understands that. The baggage. He was dismissed from the team in November, if you remember that, the whole domestic violence charges that were levied against him. But if there's some coach who's going to whip him into shape and put his head back together and put it on straight, it's certainly Pete Carroll.
It's the way the NFL is built, you're not supposed to be good for very long. So Seattle, they're coming up on that window, and if they can start stockpiling some guys later in the draft that can be cheap for them down the road when that salary cap starts to get a little bit tight, you can be better for longer. New England is a major exception when it comes to how long you can be a good football team. It's thanks to a lot of brilliant cap management and some tough decisions they've had to make.
Well, it's also because they have Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah, that helps too, finding
Brady.
your quarterback in the sixth round.
Yeah, he covers up a lot of weaknesses there, Dan. You know that.
And if you have a pretty good coach as well.
I guess that helps, sort of. Wouldn't know about that here in Cleveland.
Speaking of the Patriots, Jordan Richards, he goes to New England, and that is a wrap for the second round. Seems like a good time to take a breather here. We'll be back, the third round coming up on cleveland.com. We're going to take a break. As I said, we'll be right back with you to get the third round underway.